I'm gonna be the moderator for today. My name is Natalia Green. I am the director of the Global Alliance for the Rights of Nature. And thank you to the Resilience Hub and Peru for hosting us today. We're gonna be having a session called The Rights of Nature, Rewriting Climate Action Through Ecosystem Resilience, Equity and Regeneration. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. It's my real pleasure and honor to introduce this panel. We have with us Casey Camp Hornick from the Ponca Nation, and she's also the director of the Indigenous Council of Garn. We have Osprey Oriel Lake. She's the director of WICAN International. And we have Ned Tapa. He is a Maori leader from New Zealand, a guardian of the Wanganui River. We're very lucky and happy to have all of you all here today. And we're going to start with a ceremony. So I'm going to give the floor to Casey. Thank you, Casey, for being here today. And Ned.
Tēnā tātou. Kauru ora ngā tua, kauru ora ngā tangata, kauru ora ngā wānanga, kauru ora ngā kōrero. Ko te waka kauru ora te kaunu nui te kauru oroa, ko te waka kauru ora kia rangi nui e tū nei. O reira rangi nui e tū nei, ko papa e taka tōna ake nei, tēnei rā te mii kia kōrua. O reira Māori awa, Māori tangata, Māori ora. Just to, I suppose, explain what I have said, we have started with the karanga because in our world, nothing starts without the sound of the woman who gives life, the woman who looks after and nurtures life. And then we follow secondly with our uruku, which talks about the upper layers, the earth layers, all being in balance and all being in sync together. So very short explanation of that, but nice to be here. Thank you again, everybody. Tēnā tātou, Māori ora, kia tātou. Thank you.
No? Thank you, Ned. And thank you for grounding us. Thank you, everybody. You are attending the Rights of Nature, Rewriting Climate Action Through Ecosystem Resilience, Equity and Regeneration. This panel is hosted by Think Film, the Global Alliance for the Rights of Nature, and WICAN. And this session is inspired by the film I Am the River is Me. And it offers a successful case studies from the Rights of Nature movement that have been demonstrated the long-term solutions toward biodiversity protection, promoting community resilience and livelihoods, and building climate resilience. As one of the fastest growing movements in the world, globally, the Rights of Nature recognizes that the Earth's ecosystems have the right to exist and thrive while rejecting false solutions that attempt to commodify nature and threaten human and indigenous rights. The event is going to feature our leaders representing this community around the world who have implemented the Rights of Nature frameworks in their own communities. We are going to start by showing a brief presentation, a trailer from the film I Am the River is Me. I want to, of course, thank our Maori elders who are here accompanying this film that you're going to see the protagonist. And I also want to thank Peter, the producer of the film, who's also here with us. So thank you for that, and let's pass the film, please, the trailer.
The river is the biggest player in who I am. Our trip's about us as people coming together. It's about saving rivers, saving the planet. But as far as tipping over upside down, hasn't happened yet.
I can feel it all leaving me. Can you?
Yeah, every time.
I can feel all the unhealthiness is all leaving me.
Everything in this world in our eyes is a force of life within.
There's something that's much bigger than all of us. And we're just players in this bigger play that's happening, you know.
Right, we've got to get a bit of steam up, people.
All right, let's give it away.
We're in the right place.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're modern Māoris.
Everything represents one small, tiny little piece in this larger weave.
We have so much to learn from Indigenous cultures.
I do see a shift in kind of my generation and younger people my age.
You have rivers and lakes and seas that in your own country. Go home and look after your water. E rere kau mai te awa nui mai te kāu I maunga ki Tangaroa. Ko au te awa, ko te awa ko au.
Thank you, Peter, for that film. And thank you, Ned and Ricky, for being here. It's really inspiring what you have done, and thank you for giving us the gift of this film throughout this time. I'm going to give you the word, Ned, so you can comment on the film and comment about the experience with Wanganui. So the floor is all yours.
Oh, kia ora everybody. I suppose this journey started for us with one of our uncles or our elders who relies on us to bring people, to educate people on our river. So it is because we are able to do that our uncle says to, well, we have a word back home and it's called voluntold. So he voluntold us what to do. It wasn't voluntary. He told us that we had to bring this particular group of ours down the river, just to share to the rest of the world what we've been able to do, even through sadness from our past, to be able to have some happiness in our lives by, again, being able to be the guardians of our river that we did lose through the times of colonialism, and we were able to talk from both sides and get that guardianship back on our river. So our duty today is to share what we have done. It is to share what others may want to do, not to tell others what to do, but just to lead them to a story that it can be done. And it always comes down to, if you have good people in power, good things happen. If you don't have good people in power, we will forever be fighting. So to our leaders around the world, please be good, because we need you to save our waters, our planet, and our people, which is all of us together. There's no separation from this. There's no hiding from it. So if our river can be a part of a little turn in the way that they see things, then we're very, very, very happy that that's happened. With the organisations like GAN that we've been invited to attend, very important that they are here, and because there's so many within this group from many places around the world, that the Whanganui River is really happy to be amongst you all.
Thank you, Ned. Thank you, Ned. And next we're going to listen from Casey Camp-Hornick. She's the chair of the Indigenous Council of the Global Alliance for the Rights of Nature. She's also part of the weekend board and also for Movement Rights. And Casey, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you here. The word's with you.
Thank you. I was seeing if there was a song that wanted to be sung. No. I was really trying to invite them, but no. So I'm really honored to sit on this particular panel and talk about this particular issue and gift that is being offered to humans to recognize themselves as part of nature and not separate from nature. It's been an interesting thing to be growing up as a Ponca girl and now a great-grandmother whose grandparents were on the forced removal, whose great-grandparents were part of those that had the smallpox blankets distributed along the river that loves us, Nishu, the Missouri River. And to be the daughter of the boarding school generation, and to be one of those that was taken from the reservation, the POW camp we were put on, and put into a city. And then to become a mother who knew that it was necessary for her children to understand the same things that we had to be taught covertly because of our language being stolen, because of the brutality of the federal government where I live, and their direct attempt to finish killing us after several forms of genocide, and to open up our POW camp at that time to the extractive industry coming in and poisoning the water, the air, and the earth. And in that growing up, becoming part of the American Indian movement, where we took to the streets to change things. Buildings were stormed. I was the honored, cared for daughter, sister, and mama that had the big honor of getting to just be home and care for my children and the children of others, while some of the very strong things were being taken care of for me. Going into the Trail of Broken Treaties in Washington, D.C., and occupying the buildings. Being part of the Wounded Knee takeover in 1973. Those were all done for me so that I could raise children in a good manner, and the children then have taken up that same way of being, and then being introduced to not that form of activism, but this form of activism that non-Indigenous people call environmentalism. For us, it was just a way of being, was to understand that we are part of all things. Everything is our relative. Everything is our relative. That's in every ceremony of every Red Nations that I know. That is to recognize that the stone people have their own way, that the water herself is herself, not an entity that is a commodity that one can buy and sell. It came as a shock to me in our youth to see water being bought and sold. It never occurred to me. Now they're buying and selling the very air that we breathe, and they're calling it a climate good thing to say carbon credits, carbon trading, and all of those things are good, when actually that's just another market that the colonizers are making up, like they made up money, like they made up a way of being that enriches the few and causes the poverty and the death, because they're mass murderers, they're serial killers. They've done that to all of creation, and now they're doing it to themselves and to their generations to come. As we were introduced into this world of environmentalism in the 1980s, ceremony had told us about this thing called the purification that was coming and how to prepare for it. I'm shortening things as much as possible. And during that period of time, when 100 women gathered in 2013, I met Osprey and Shannon, and we understand that women know what's going on in their village. Women know what's going on in their family, their village, and their cosmos. And when all these 100 women came together, not only just to tell the problems, but come with the solutions, I heard of this thing called rights of nature, and it was not for me. I felt as if it was something that was just one more law that humankind was trying to enact around something that they knew nothing about. Over a series of years of being part of the delegation to go to visit the Wanganui River and listen to her, touch her. Right now, when you were singing and when he was praying, I was able to be with her again. That's how powerful she is, and that's how beautiful your ways are, that can happen. And learning from her, learning from other Indigenous peoples around the world, and non-Indigenous peoples like the ones in Garn, as well as Women's Earth and Climate Action Network, and how movement rights has come into the Ponca community and had our community meetings. We understood that it was necessary for us to be able to stop the cancers in virtually every single family in whatever way that we could. We understood that it was the sacred 2 rivers near us that we had to pay even tighter attention to through this colonial law, as well as natural law that we lived within that was being ignored and defiled. And again, many shortcuts arriving in 2017 when I was elected to an office there on the Council of the Ponca people, and brought this notion with movement rights into our council meetings and talked to them about this thing called rights of nature, and how it could be something that not only honored our original ways and teachings, but also how it might be part of a protective barrier that would fight against the extractive industry. And a statute was formed recognizing the immutable Ponca rights of nature, because you cannot give rights to anything. You can only recognize them or deny them. We recognized the obvious thing that the wind has a right to blow where it will, that the fires inside the earth and from the Father, Son have a right to do what they choose, that all of the things we mentioned, and even climate itself, has a right to exist in its natural form. Humankind is messing with all of that. And further down the line, because we're still in the process of bringing those things where they can become a legal standard for all red nations. We're meeting with all the tribes, 39 tribes in Oklahoma, out of which 37 were forcibly removed, different languages, different portions of the earth that they're from, different instructions from their original ways. But how does it look in their particular territory that they are caretakers of, the rivers that they are part of? How does it look for them if rights of nature was built into their constitutions or built into their statutes? And then we moved further with rights of rivers, and that will be a continuing, ongoing thing. And our immutable rights of the rivers have been recognized legally in a statute, and we will be continuing to have meetings with other nations in our territory around that. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you for all that inspiration, all that word, and all that gathering of Indigenous people from around the world to give us that important message from the earth. Thank you for all the work that you do for the Bonka Nation and for guiding us as the wisdom keepers of the Global Alliance for the Rights of Nature. And we're going to continue with Osprey Oriole Lake. Osprey is Executive Director of the Women, Earth, and Climate Action Network Weekend, and she's part of the GARN Executive Committee. And Osprey, please also share with us a little bit about why we're here, what's happening at COP, why the rights of nature are important, and how can we deliver this message that our Indigenous allies are telling us and giving us so strongly.
Thank you. First, I just want to say I'm very honored to be sitting here with my teachers from Indigenous nations, where truly the heart of rights of nature and the knowledge systems and philosophy and worldview has come from. I think that's a very important place for us to begin. So I feel very honored to be sitting here with both of you and with you, Natty, as we really bring a framework, a way of life, an understanding, a breath of, cool air into this space. And I think I really love that video, but I will be honest, it was painful to see that drip of water. That hurt. In the best way. Yeah, jump in there. So thank you all for being here and this really important conversation. Many times we're in these spaces at the COP, and why we wanted to do this event here in the COP. It's a way for us to assert our authority. It is a way for us to take up space. And I like that drip of water because it's like we're this drip of water coming into this parched, burnt, hot, drought-filled, dead space. And our drip of water is like bringing life in here for a different view, a different vision of how we could be living with the earth based on Indigenous philosophy, Indigenous knowledge, which I'm not a keeper of, I don't say that, but we have learned how do we actually take that knowledge with respect to Indigenous people and put that into a form of law where we can begin to have a reciprocal relationship with nature again that most of us in modern society have lost. And it needs to be regained. How do we sit with the trees? How do we listen to the water? How do we live with the ocean? How do we live in harmony with the natural world by following the natural laws? It seems so simple, but it's actually really radical right now because we're doing the opposite of that. And here we are 30 years later at the COP. 30 years, still debating if we should live or not, if we should be kind to the water, if we should be kind to the air, if we should live with the butterflies and the ants and the monkeys and the giraffes in a respectful way. In many ways, it's insane that we are arguing with governments around the world to live and to care for the web of life. I mean, there's a level of insanity here that needs to be spoken out loud because it's not right. And so for me, rights of nature is an assertion of us saying we should live. The web of life is sacred, that land defenders who are always on the front lines need to be respected, that land defenders are screaming at the top of their lungs, many who can't come into this space, that we're destroying the last of the forest, the last of the air. This COP is one of the last times that we will meet with this many land defenders to scream at the top of our lungs that the planet is dying, communities are dying, and the conversations here are based on money, not around, like the young woman we heard from yesterday talking about rights of nature, the cancer in her community because of oil pollution. They're not hearing that. They're not here negotiating for life. They're negotiating about the wealthy elite collecting more wealth, more power, because they know what is going on, and they're collecting their little communities together so that they can have food and water and try to survive the catastrophe that that greed produced. And we're here to say, no, we don't want that. We refuse that reality. We demand justice. And rights of nature is justice for our communities and justice for the earth. And we are saying that we need to recognize nature's rights. And on July 3rd of this year, the Inter-American Court of Human Rights issued a historic advisory opinion recognizing nature as a rights-bearing entity. And I want to use that leverage here to go bring it to governments and say that one of the biggest courts in the world has said nature has rights, and that we need to recognize these rights, that we need to, that it is legally now stated by them that we need to recognize nature's rights as a way for humans to have human rights. And we need to demand that from our governments while we're here at COP30. So this is a different framing for them. And one of our opportunities here at COP30 is that there's many different work programs, for those of you who don't know, that are part of the Paris Climate Agreement that are being negotiated over the next 2 weeks. And one of them is the Just Transition Work Program. And it's one of the spaces that we can and others are negotiating in and pushing negotiators, because there's an opportunity for us to have a conversation about rights of nature in that space. Because just transition is a larger conversation than a lot of the conversations about climate finance, as an example, or these carbon markets, which we oppose. We have fought every year to stop Article 6, and it was gavelled through in a very unjust way at COP29. And we say no to Article 6, which is based completely on false solutions and market mechanisms, which just further the problem and put a price on nature instead of stopping pollution at the source and stopping these killers that Casey was talking about. So in the Just Transition Program, we have presented this report called Rights of Nature as a central pillar of a just transition, and we are sharing this with governments this entire 2 weeks for them to understand there is a different legal framework that they can be operating from. It includes Indigenous rights. It includes women's rights. It includes community-led solutions. It includes the just transition to renewable energy, but in a just way where we don't have mining that now just replicates the fossil fuel economy, where now we're mining in these territories we should not. It's about getting the global north and wealthy countries to power down and stop consuming so much. And we have to really think through these nuances. We can't just say like, oh, now we're going to all move to electrical. How do we do that? And if we can't do it as business as usual, we should not do it. It's time to get very real, very nuanced about what is possible and not in a just way for our communities and for the earth. So we're really pushing this agenda to talk about the care economy. Women have been working and carrying the backbone of the home and family under underpaid care, undervalued work for years under these patriarchal institutions that perpetuate supremacy and domination over the land, Indigenous peoples, over women, over people of color, and we want those systems of oppression to stop. And what's beautiful about rights of nature, it's a big enough umbrella for us to have social justice, economic justice, racial justice, all woven in together in one powerful rights of nature framework. And so this is what we really want them to read and to advocate for and to bring into the Just Transition Work Program this year. I'm just going to finalize by one more comment and hand the floor back to you. Is the other thing we are going to be continuing to talk to governments about and meeting with in bilateral conversations is a global initiative for a universal declaration on the rights of nature, because ultimately what needs to happen, and you know what, it's Mother Earth who's going to ultimately have the say, is we're going to have to live by her laws. We are going to live by her laws one way or another. And so it would be much better if we actually implemented a universal declaration of rights of nature and get on with this business for real. And so this is an initiative that shows a mechanism about how governments can get together and create a mechanism to negotiate and agree upon rights of nature collectively. It's a big process, but I say we start now, or we're going to be in the desert with the cockroaches begging for water. And I would prefer that we actually do our duty as human beings, stand up, listen to Mother Earth, listen to Indigenous people, listen to the land. And as our Indigenous relatives have been sharing with us from the Amazon, we're here in the Amazon to listen to the forest. We came here, it was fought for that we would be in the Amazon, and that's one of the reasons I don't mind that we're baking ourselves, I guess, is because there's a reason we're here in the Amazon. And our sisters from the Amazon said, we're here to reforest our minds. We're here to reforest our minds. And so rights of nature is a way that we can do that, to reforest our minds. And that means getting into the natural law, opening these spaces and taking up space for rights of nature. Thank you.
Thank sorry. I'm losing my voice after speaking so much. Thank you, Osprey. Thank you for those words, because I think they completely go with the objectives of today, that were pretty much to elevate the rights of nature as a legal, ethical framework at the UN for the NDC implementation, and for a call for all parties to have a co-governance with Indigenous people, local communities, and also with nature as climate stewards. So we are doing that call, that very important call, within a framework of talking about public trust doctrine, constitutional rights, indigenous aboriginal rights. And I really want to speak, and I'm going to go back to you with questions, and I'm open also if the public wants to do a question, you're more than welcome to raise your hand if you want to ask a question here. But I really want to, first of all, thank you, Ned, for being that guardian of the Wanganui River, and ask you, what does it mean to be a representative, a guardian of the river? It's not, people sometimes question the rights of nature movement and say, nature cannot talk. I say, well, my son, when he was like a year old, he couldn't talk either, and I could go and represent him in court. And I know that there are many ways in the juridical system that already give voice to the people who don't talk in human language, you know? But what does it mean to be a guardian of the river? And what was the message that you will give to other people to inspire other people to move towards initiatives of recognizing the rights of the river, understanding that the river is alive? What would you like to share with the public, Ned?
A guardian of the river. So we have a saying at home called "E rere kau mai te awa nui mai te kaui maunga ki Tangaroa, ko au te awa ko te awa ko au," which means our river flows from the mountains to the sea. I am the river and the river is me. So I am the river and the river is me. I am its guardians while I'm walking on this earth, and the river is my guardians while I'm still swimming in its waters. So I think it is hard for a non-Indigenous person to maybe grasp that type of connection to our environment. It is an environment. Even the word using the word environment is strange to me. It is of a foreign thinking, because I believe that the river is me and the river I am. There's no division in my mind, in my thoughts, in my ways, in my love for the river. We are both, and it is my duty to take care of her when I have to, because she takes care of me when she has to. And I mean by the fact that, like my sister over here, come through a time of hard times in our world back in Aotearoa, New Zealand, but we wanted to ensure that our children had better than what we had, have the connections back to Mother Earth that we have had, have connections to the water, to the river, to our mountains, so that they really know where they come from. And it's just a matter of us sharing to as many people as we can that everything, everywhere that we walk, all the air that we breathe comes from the same place, and your air is no different than mine. So we must come together and look after, otherwise it won't be there for the future. Look, if we can spend how many trillions of dollars to get a man on the moon, just imagine how much we could do with all that money here on Earth. Anyway, tēnā tātou.
Thank you, Ned, and thank you, Peter and Corinne, for bringing this message. It's so hard for us in this part of the world to go to New Zealand, and I think that we all feel that river and want to go. I want to go kayaking in that river right now. But really, thank you to Scene Documentaries for giving that gift, and I know that Peter and Corinne have said that we should use it as a tool, as a weapon even.
I think that's a good example of people from different sides of the world coming together. We didn't even know them from a bar of salt at one stage, and then when the Australian Aboriginal elders came over, we've never met them before. It was just trust in each other, trust in people that worked, and it just happened. You know, you talk about that magic that happens. It happened. It just, and how it's fallen out of the sky to where it is today. My partner and I, because of these people, because of the river, we always go back to the river. It has taken us to many, many places around the world in the last 2 years. So it's about bringing people together. And if that doco or that video or movie can move people to support people to do something, then I will die a happy man.
Thank you, Ned, and I think that water connects us. We are water. Thank you for the water. We are water, water connects us, and thank you for giving that gift, that message, that inspiration to the world. I have some questions, but I see a hand up, so I'm going to go with... No, yes.
Thank you. This is a wonderful panel, and it's also beautiful to reunite Ned, the voice of the Wanganui River, with Casey Camp-Hornick, who is also the hereditary drumkeeper for and a guardian of the rivers where she comes from, and that we were able to spend time with you in 2017 to learn and share about these experiences. And in that time, one of the things that stuck with me was the idea that, you know, why does the river need personhood? And one of the things that was shared with me from the Wanganui iwi was that the river had been seen as property from the Crown government and was therefore in chains. And because I am the river and the river is me, your cultural your culture and your people were also in chains. And that by owning itself, the river owning itself, was also like taking out of slavery and bondage the connection of the people to this river. And one of the things that we were told was that the Pakia, non-Indigenous, non-Iwi people of Aotearoa were learning from this experience. And could you say how that experience is going? Are there more Pakia people who are beginning to understand and reconnect with their own selves and the river?
I could say yes. I could say yes to that because amongst a lot of our non-Māori people in the Wanganui area, and I can see, when you can see a change in the older generation, like I'm talking 70 years plus, when you can see the change in the way that they see the river, then we know that we've done, we've started to share the message about the river being not just a commodity, not being a dollars and cents sign, but I am the river and the river is me. And I know that they call it their river now. So that's a bit hard to take, but that's okay, we can share it. Yeah, but you know, it was never about us giving up anything. When we went to court, it was in my grandfather's time. Then handed to the father and then handed to the son. That sounds like a prayer. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. But because of, I suppose, we were able to, well, we actually knew that we had to educate as we went through court systems, because the Western court did not recognize our law, L-O-R-E. So we had to educate them on our law, and I said it to a few people over the last couple of days. We took them on the river, we put them on the water, we canoed them down so that they could touch, so that they could feel, and it started to take a presence on them. So when it came to court, they knew what we were talking about. Not everything, because you know this is you're born with it, what we have as Indigenous people. You don't learn it; it's just there right from the start. So it was about sharing and educating, and our community now realizes what we're all about, what the river's all about. If I got one more thing to say, when we have a mate on a river or a drowning, which happens because it is water, we have a period of time of sacredness called a rāui. And a rāui is placed on that particular length of river where no swimming occurs, no boating occurs, no taking of fish occurs, no usage of that particular piece of water until the tūpapaku or the deceased has been found and brought back onto the ground. So previously to that, you know, people just didn't care a damn. They'd say, oh, those bloody Maoris again, stopping people from using the river. I'm sure that sounds familiar. But through education and people understanding the way that we see things, when a rāhui is now called on the river, everybody takes note of it and respects it. So for Wanganui, that's a major, major advantage for everybody. So, yeah. Work together and we can do it. My papa would say, don't tell me, show me.
Yes. And in that showing, thank you, Ned, I want to ask you, Casey, I know that the Indigenous Council is working on a red paper regarding Indigenous rights and rights of nature. So I would like to ask you, how do you see those rights interacting? Are they complementary? Are there problems? How can we tell all the Indigenous people who are here that maybe it's a tool, or what do you feel about that relationship?
Thank you, Natty. And I'll probably not answer that question directly, but I'll talk a bit around it. First of all, I want to acknowledge as well, when you mentioned the prayer, that the majority of the ways that we have been dispossessed as Indigenous people of the territories that we live started for us with the doctrine of discovery in the 1400s, when there was a papal bull edict that said that anyone that came into territories that were not Christianized were allowed to take, claim, kill, and recreate within their own framework everything. And that has impacted us tremendously. As you can see, I'm wearing this MMIW emblem. I'm wearing some earrings gifted to me by Simone Sigales, who has journeyed to the spirit world. And we have experienced this for over 500 years right now because of that doctrine of discovery. And this world called indigeneity, or the indigenous peoples, is also kind of new, because for a long time they called us Indians because that Columbus guy was so ignorant that he thought he landed in India, right? Yeah, and so that kind of wiped out something like 50 million native peoples in the North and South Americas. And for a long time, people called us by whatever they wanted to. Panka abadi. Panka. I'm a Panka woman. I'm not Indigenous only, or that whole blanket of identification. But I am the sum of all of those that came from the stars originally, and that were gifted the honor of being part of a sacred system of life that already existed here, that the Great Mystery put in place on the place that we now call Earth, and that as a sacred pact and a sacred vow that was made between the spiritual world and Wakanda, the Great Mystery, we were allowed to come here to be part of all that is, not separate from. So when we're talking about Indigenous rights, when we're talking about women's rights, when we're talking about human rights, those are all separations that are made by a colonist mind. We are a species of two-legged beings that are made into a certain form, just like there are fish that are made into this form. There is water that has her form, the birds that fly. By the way, all of you out there had your fans going at once. You look like magical little butterflies or something new and wonderful that was just so beautiful. Thank you for who you are. But that's who we are. So for me, that's another way that rights of nature fits that cosmology and understanding that we've said this before, we're not just water protectors, land defenders. Us humans have to understand and accept and embody the fact that we are nature protecting itself. And that's so important, because if we fully incorporate that into our spirituality, into the manner in which we relate to all living things, in the manner in which we relate to each other, in the manner in which we demand equality for all our relations. That means all living things, the trees, the mountains, the waters, the chickens, the ones that fly, the ones that swims in the water, the sacred water herself, the air that we move with these fans. The heat that we're existing in right now is a sacred form of natural law. So we can just get over it and say, yeah, we demand right now, and there's so many millions of us, there's very few of them. I also want to say that I stand in solidarity with my relatives that came and kicked in the doors here last night from the Amazon.
Thank you, Casey. And to finish, I'm going to give the word to Osprey. And Osprey, I come from Ecuador, the first country to recognize the rights of nature in the Constitution. And we are proud and we love what we have done. 17 years later, the movement has grown, it has expanded. We are proud of that. And we are facing an election this Sunday that we can elect either to keep that Constitution or change it in favor of corporate interests and mining. And we know that that's because we are growing as a movement and the resistance is becoming authoritarian and fascist. So you come from the US facing a similar reality. What message will you give to the governments right now that feel very, very weakened by the fact that the US is not supporting the negotiations anymore, and that we have such like a raise of authoritarian governments right now? What's the message that you will say related to rights of nature, resistance, and indigenous people, and what we're doing right now?
Big questions. Well, I think that what's really important is that we, the people, have power. That's really important to understand, is authoritarian governments stand on weak legs. And when we stand up strong together, we are stronger than them. And if you imagine a pyramid, how those authoritarian governments work is they're a little tiny pyramid at the top, right? That's how they view themselves. But the circle of us and our power is vast. Our numbers are bigger, our imaginations are bigger, our capacity for love is bigger, our determination is bigger. That does not mean it's not easy. It does not mean that there's not violations. It doesn't mean that we won't be suffering. But it does mean that we can stand up for our democracies, that we can stand up for our rights. And what we also need to remember is that, as an example, in the United States, in Ecuador, we are coming from long histories of colonization, of patriarchy, of capitalism, and these deep systems of oppression. And it's all coming to a head right now because Mother Earth is demanding that we have this conversation, and her demand is through tornadoes, it is through fire, it is through flood. She's speaking in the language of imbalance. She's speaking and saying what we are doing collectively as a species is not working. And so this long history of oppression, of greed, of domination is coming to an end. And how we move through this is our question. How do we do this? How do we ensure that justice and the people who have not done the harms survive? How do we ensure the most biodiversity survives? And so we need to be in solidarity together, because those of us in the United States fighting our own authoritarian regimes stand in solidarity with you in Ecuador. We know what you're going through. We know what other countries are going through. And we're all learning together to get out on the streets, to vote, to voice, to speak out, to be strong. This is a time for courage. It's a time to be bold. It's a time to be strong. That's what we have to do, because this system has been going on a long time. I could even name the leaders, but we're not supposed to do that here. But what I will say is that even without those leaders, there'd be other leaders doing it, because it's a dying system. And as it dies, it tries to grab for more power and grab for the last of the life force. And we are not going to allow that to happen, right?
No!
We are not going to allow that to happen. We are going to fight, and if it doesn't happen in our own lifetime, we fight for future generations. We fight for time beyond our own. We have to remember, we might not all see it today or tomorrow, but we are carrying for that life force, for that beauty way, for that way of balance. And that's what we're fighting for. And so every inch, every centimeter we get while we're here counts, because it's that drip of water that then turns into the river. And we will not stop. We will not stop. And Mother Earth is on our side. We're on the side of Mother Earth. I mean, this is going to happen. It's going to happen one way or another. And let's have it happen more beautifully, more dignified, and with that leadership that we really need from the people. I think that's the most important thing. And I'm going to close by saying something that I learned when I was looking at the word courage. The root word of kur is heart. And then the second part of rage. So courage is our heart rage. And I think we come here with our heart rage. With our heart, but we also have that spirit of fighting, our courage. So I invite us to be courageous together at this moment when we are literally fighting for our lives, and knowing that we are in solidarity together is how we're going to get through this.
Thank you, Osprey. And to finish up, I would like to call for the QR to be put here, because as a panel, we are doing a call to action, and this is a plug and play. And it says, when you plug it, it's a call for governments, and it says, we recognize the inherent rights of nature to exist, regenerate, and evolve. In line with this, we commit to honoring and implementing the rights of nature to protect and enhance the worldwide ecologically sacred territories that we all share. This is a call that we are doing right now to all of the governments in COP, and we really thank you for this panel. I don't think it's a coincidence that we are in the Peruvian pavilion that also has a river with rights, the Marañón River. So combining the Marañón River with the Ponca rivers, with the Wanganui rivers, with the Machanga rivers, with the rivers in the US, with all the rivers, because we are water. Water is life. Water has rights. Nature has rights. I would really like to think, seeing documentaries, I would like to think film, We Can, the Global Alliance for the Rights of Nature, for putting this together. Of course, thank you, Casey, Osprey, Ned, for being here today. I'm really appreciative of this space, and that we're calling up all governments to really enhance and implement and recognize the rights of nature. So thank you all for being here today. Share this QR code. Let's do that call for all governments here. And thank you for using that instrument of the river is me. I am the river is me.